And as we're going over, we see gunnery sergeant has blood coming out of his ears. The doctor, his legs is cut up. Hernandez, half of his face is blown off. And then my best friend Solto, you can see his stomach all on the steering wheel. Michael Allison, United States Marine from 1999 to 2007. I was a kid that was born in Jamaica back in 1981, and my childhood was one of someone that faced a ton of adversity growing up as a kid. I grew up with my mom and dad, and I had 2 sisters and 1 brother. And when we was growing up, my dad was a taxi driver and my mom was a postal clerk. From my youngest age, something that I could remember was that it was always raining and always pouring because of how the country is set up around in the Caribbean. We faced a very, very bad downpour of rain one time back in 1985. And it was raining so bad and so much where we lived at. There was a canal and there was a river close by. And one night it was just pouring rain over and over. As it was raining, it started flooding the streets and flooding our neighborhood. We woke up one morning and we saw toys, we saw all of the little knickknacks in the house just floating. And I'm like, holy shit, what the hell is going on? Freaking out. Mom and dad started just scurrying around, and eventually they had to get the ladder and take it outside, and we had to climb to the rooftop of our house. And all of the kids, mom is shuffling all of us up there, sitting on the rooftop until the water subsided. As we're going through this, it's raining and we're pouring and we're sitting on the roof. And as kids, you could just tell that we're freaking out, we're scared, and like, what is going on? Eventually, when the water subsided, we came down this ladder and we had to walk all the way to Maypen, which was close to a five-mile walk for us just to go uphill and get out of this flood. Lost everything. When you think about all the things that they worked so hard for, you could just imagine what they were going through as parents. Because at this particular time, there's no Google Drive, there's nothing like that where you could store like documents and all of these things that they worked so hard for. So now they had to rebuild and start from scratch. So when you think about that, they had to work so hard. And this is when I started understanding what it's like to just keep on pushing through and have that can-do attitude and just be a little bit resilient. But as a kid, man, I was always a kid that was always fun, playful, liked to play around. At that time, I was a very chubby kid. So I was a kid that loved ice cream, loved to eat, loved to play around. But I was always someone that was always intrigued by things. So what are the mechanics of things that would make a bike? What are the mechanics of things that would make trucks? What are the things that would go inside of like little toys and engines and things like that? So I would be the one that would be like deconstructing things and just trying to figure things out because I was always an inquisitive kid. So that's how my childhood was. I grew up with my brothers and my sisters, but in our family, in our neighborhood, we had my grandparents, we had my uncles, because in Jamaica, it's pretty much like a close-knit family. My grandfather was from England, and he came and lived in one of the houses that we lived in. And then my other grandfather, he was from Cuba as well, too, and he came here on a boat from Cuba. And getting an understanding to learning what it's like for my grandfather from England and my grandfather from Cuba to learn about their demographics and their upbringing was quite interesting, too, as well, and understanding, like, knowing where I come from. Following that, man, several years later, there was another hurricane, and it was Hurricane Gilbert. And this hurricane was a Category 5 hurricane. And this hurricane killed over 300 people at this particular time. We had moved and transitioned to another house. And this house, the houses there in Jamaica, the roof were built from zinc. And from this hurricane, it blew our roof off. And at this particular time, mom and dad was like, enough is enough. That is it. We cannot deal with this anymore. We keep on going through this process. And where we're living at, we're going to always be faced with hurricanes and things like that. That's going to always destroy us. And for us to keep on starting over and rebuilding and everything that we worked so hard for is going to take everything from us. And this is something that we just cannot do. And the typical story that you hear from Jamaicans is that we're either going to go to New York, we're either going to go to Canada, we're going to go to some other country or some other island to trying to figure things out. And for them was to go to America, which is the American dream that most immigrants think about. They're going to go to New York City. And we had family members that was already living in New York. And they chose for me and my siblings to stay in Jamaica with my grandparents. So staying with my grandma, she was a bit strict. This woman here was someone that would stay up late at night, and you could just hear her praying every single night, praying for us, praying. She's sipping her tea, she's reading the Bible, those types of things. And it was on a very tight schedule. Up in the morning, go to school, come back home, and we're sitting and eating together, those types of things. I remember one time, man, when I was a kid, I was getting ready to go to school, and I forgot my bus fare. I was going to school, got in the taxi that takes us to school. And once I got to school, I forgot my bus fare. Those guys that runs the taxi started messing with me and started driving me around and wouldn't let me off the bus because I didn't have my bus fare. At that moment, I saw how cruel or how mean people could be to a little 6, 7-year-old kid that couldn't fend for himself or anything like that. And I felt so defenseless, felt so powerless in regards to things that I could not control and things I could not do. And from that moment in my life, I started understanding, like, I need to start learning how to galvanize power for myself in regards to never being into situations just like this again. I eventually told my grandma about this, and she was telling me that in this life, in this world that you live in, that, there's always going to be people out here that's going to treat you bad. And it's how you respond and how you deal with those types of situations that's going to help and kind of determine your types of character that you're going to develop within yourself. And this is one of those things that I've always took from my grandma. She was always one of those types of women that is always like praying for you and always like kind of like a guardian angel is just something that I always looked at when I think about her. From that time frame, man, my mom and dad went to New York, working all they can in regards to like just saving up money and just try to like prepare things for us to come to America. What their plan was for us was to come to America, but come to Miami, Florida. In Miami, Florida, we had aunts and uncles that was already living there. And when you think about Miami, Florida, the part that we moved to was Overtown, Florida in Miami. And in 1988, this is the projects, this is the ghetto. And when you think about this, it was probably one of the worst situations that you could actually come to. We left Jamaica and we tell our grandparents goodbye. And we get on this plane, and back then the airlines was called Air Jamaica, which is no longer in existence anymore. But Air Jamaica, we go through the airport, we go through customs, we give them visas, and everybody's just looking at us and staring at us because not too many people get this opportunity to come to America as the opportunity that we got. But you could tell that we're foreigners based off how we're dressed and how we're looking. We have on shoes that is no name brand. We have on socks that's all the way up to our ankles. And the clothes that we're wearing are just ordinary hand-me-down types of clothes that we're traveling on. Then you see these kids sitting in the row of the airline with people that's escorting us, and you could tell that we don't belong or we're not normal, just like everybody else that's flying that's in like suits and they're looking nice. They have their briefcases and those types of things. Travel on this flight and we get to America, and we got picked up from my aunt and my uncle. I thought they would greet us with like joy and happiness to see us, and they greeted us and welcomed us. I could see kind of like in my uncle's face in regards to like, man, I just have 3 more kids added to our house, and this is another like stressor for him. I could kind of like pick up those vibes and kind of get those feelings from him. They picked us up in one of those old school station wagons with the wood grain on the side of it. Back in those days, they don't make those cars anymore. Inside of the car was my aunt, my uncle, my grandma, and they had 3 kids of their own. And now you're about to fill a house with 6 kids. We're pulling up in Overtown. One of the first things that I saw was a guy that was walking on the street, and he had like this metal thing around his head, and he looked like he just had some type of brain surgery or something like that. And he had like these metal pieces around his whole head. For me, seeing that at 7.5, 8 years old, I'm like, what the hell did I just get into? Like, coming from where I'm from, you don't see anything like this, in the country that I grew up in. And now you're seeing people with different types of clothes that they're wearing, different types of music. You're seeing graffiti all over the place. You're seeing the streets looking kind of crazy. It took me back in regards to just being a kid looking at that and just being face over face with. So as soon as we got to their house, we're there with our family, and then we're just talking, they're catching up, just giving us what it's like to live in this neighborhood, what it's like to be in America, what are some things that they're going through, and what are some things that they've experienced so far. And we went through that, we had dinner. Moving forward, man, that night, we're there in the bedroom, all 6 kids sleeping, some on the bunk beds, some of us sleeping on the floor, which I was sleeping on the floor. I felt something heavy on top of me. Lo and behold, it was my female cousin. She tries to get on top of me, and she's trying to have sex with me. And I started screaming and yelling, and I pushed her off of me. As I pushed her off of me, her mom heard it, and her mom bust through the door and asking what's going on. And I just started yelling and telling her what took place. And she grabbed this girl, and you could hear it all in the house, all in the other living room. Her mom went to town on her and spanked her. And from there, man, we never spoke about it and never talked about it. I could not fathom how I could say to my mom and say something that her sister's daughter just did this to me in regards to we're in somebody else's house, we're technically guests, and I could ruin our family's relationships, the dynamics, and all of these backlashes and things that could come from this, knowing the situation and circumstances that we're living in. And it was very hard. And this is when I started internalizing things and started bottling things in and keeping things on the inside. At this time, I was 8 years old. And as a kid, you know, when you're facing and dealing with something like this that is so dramatic, it's kind of hard to just deal with that. You eventually internalize some of these things that you're starting to rationalize in your head. You're trying to figure things out, trying to navigate that. Like, what is this? What just happened? How could this happen to me? Those types of things. And you don't understand the dynamics of what's taking place behind some of these things. As I look back at it and think about it, being that what I do now, those same family members, one of them now is in jail for messing with their kids. That same uncle has no more relationships with his kids anymore. So I always look back at it retrospectively and what was taking place inside of that household before I even got there, for that to even happen to me. Eventually, my mom and dad came to America, New York City, where they were doing what they were doing. And once they got everything that they felt that they could get, they decided to move down to Miami, Florida to reunite our family. And when they did reunite our family, we moved to a part of town that's called Little Haiti. And we moved into a two-bedroom, two-bath apartment in our Little Haiti. You know, we made it. We got by, and mom and dad was there. Family was back united and was much more in a happier space. And my mom and dad did everything that they could to provide a happy home for us, live the life that we could dream of. My mom and dad made some sacrifices, man, that were as toughest sacrifices that you could ever make. My dad worked 3 jobs. And when I think about my dad, when he came there to provide for our family, he would get up 5 o'clock in the morning and he would get picked up by one of these white buses that would pull up in front of the house. And he would get in this bus and it would take him to the field and he would go pick limes. And he's there picking limes for hours and hours in the sun. Then he would leave that job and then he would go to the next job where he was a welder. And he was welding and building things for other people and stuff like that. Then he would leave that job and then he would go be a security guard at nighttime at a hotel. So I did not see my dad until 11, 12 o'clock at night. And he would repeat this process over and over and over as a kid. Understanding what my dad was doing for us to have food on the table and make ends meet, I truly get and understand what he was doing to provide for our family. For my mom, she came to America and she came to live in Miami. And she was a nanny, and she was getting on the metro buses every single morning, and she was going all the way to South Beach to babysit and nanny and take care of other people's kids. And then she would come back home in the evening and take care of her kids as well, too. My mom and dad went through a whole lot, thinking about the flood, the hurricane, going to New York and leaving their kids, and then coming here and doing what they had to do for us to get by. And those are some of the things that I'm seeing and experiencing as a kid to understand, like, man, my mom and dad is going through a lot of things. And I've never heard them complain. I never heard them cry about it. And if they did, it was behind closed doors in regards to like that experience for us to really truly understand what they were dealing with. Fast forward, you know, we're there living in Little Haiti. And this is when I understood how much money that our family was making, to understand like what separated us and the dynamics of that. I was in school and I'm there playing on the monkey bars and I'm swinging on the monkey bars. Michael slipped, Michael broke his hand. The school called my parents and they had to take me to the emergency room. And my dad shows up and I'm thinking my dad would be like, what happened? What's going on? He came in stressed. And being stressed, I could see the stress in regards to like dollar signs going off in his head of like, holy smokes, I got to pay for this and I got to take care of this. And when I got home, you know, we talked about what took place, what happened, and in regards to like parents are telling your kids, you got to be more careful, all these things, we went through that. And fast forward, I'm thinking that, hey, it's time to take the cast off. And my dad says, give me your arm. And we sat it and soaked it in a tub. And once it got soft enough, my dad started cutting this cast off of my arm. And this is when I'm starting to realize, like, yeah, we don't have the money or the insurance to actually pay for this and actually go get it taken off medically by a doctor. You know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do whenever those are some of the sacrifices you got to make. Yeah, man. So growing up in Little Haiti, you know, we're living in these apartments called Sable Palm. They're just stacked up and we're on the first floor. In this neighborhood, in this community, this is where the gangs called Zopound was around. And this time where you could see or you could hear about murders, shootings, killings taking place on a daily basis. And it was just like the common norm in regards to what you're experiencing, what are some of the things that you're seeing as a kid. I think our parents did the best job that they could in regards to like protecting us and keeping us away from some of these things. But as kids, and you're going to school, you're hearing about it, you're seeing about it and things like that. So there's not too much you could actually avoid or protection that your parents could actually keep you away from some of these things. And these are some of the things that we're experiencing going through on a daily basis. You know, thank God they did a really good job in regards to keeping us out of those types of situations and circumstances that we never actually got involved. But from afar, from a distance, you clearly know what's going on. You clearly could see what is taking place. And to know that if you was to get involved or be a part of this, that could actually change the trajectory of your life or where it was going actually as well. So what inspired me to seek the military out was when you're someone that has been through some of the things that I've been through, you're seeking to be a part of a unit. You're seeking to be a part of a brotherhood. You're seeking to be a part of something that you could call your own. You could call your family. You could call, this is where I actually truly belong. And I say that I was one that joined the Boy Scouts, and that circumstance in the Boy Scouts turned out to be one of the worst experiences I could ever experience in my life. And when I was in Boy Scouts, I was on a trip in Washington, D.C. On the last day of this trip, it's 12 boys. When we come back from this trip, half of the boys go in one room and the other half goes in the other room. We're in the rooms and all of us are taking showers, and I go and take the shower. I come out of the shower and I see half of the boys there on the wall and they're skivvies and naked. And I was told to get on that wall too as well. And that experience changed my life. That's something that I should not have experienced and no kid in their life should ever experience, when a grown adult chooses to abuse kids and chooses to abuse boys. And that left me in a space where I felt hurt, I felt betrayed. Took something away from me that I was always looking for in regards to someone that has been through a whole bunch of things. So when it came time for me to join the Marine Corps, I'm going to give this another shot. I'm going to give this another chance in regards to me searching for something that I'm looking to be a part of. So when I was there in high school, I'm playing high school football. I tore my ACL one year. I tore my MCL the next year. And my opportunity to go to the University of Wisconsin in regards to a scholarship was taken away. And I came across Staff Sergeant Noda right out there at the lunchroom, and he said, hey, man, come here. You want to talk for a second? What are your plans after you finish high school? And I said, honestly, I really don't have any plans at this moment. You know, for me, looking at it, you know, I could see that financially, you know, if I was to go to college, this is going to put a strain on my mom and dad. And I'm someone that is always like thinking about other people in regards to like, I don't want to be a burden to anyone or a stressor to anyone. So how could I alleviate that level of stress on my mom and dad or on my family? Let me look into the Marine Corps. I've seen things on TV in regards to like what the Marine Corps stood for, but let me talk to Staff Sergeant Noda and see if this is actually a good idea, if this is a good circumstance or situation and somewhere that I could actually thrive. And after I spoke with him, he was telling me all of the good things about the Marine Corps in regards to other things that you could get, none of the bad things. When I got with him, he was telling me, you know, you could go to college, you get a chance to tour the world, you get a chance to meet a whole bunch of people, all of these things. I came back and talked to my mom and dad, and one of their biggest concerns, one of their biggest fear was about going to war and actually serving in regards to, at that time, you know, we've seen what it was like with Desert Storm, and we saw how dangerous that was when we're seeing it on TV playing out in the news. So that was one of their biggest fears and concern in regards to their kid actually going to serve. But I told them, I said, hey, this is something that I truly wanted to do in regards to actually serving our country and actually finding out and seeing what I'm truly discovered of and what kind of man that I could be. And my mom and dad actually truly supported that decision that I made. It turned out to be one of the best decisions that I did make. I started training because at that time I was a football player. So as a football player, I was about 260 pounds, 270 pounds. And then I started to notice, it was like, you got to get down to like close to 200, 210. Back then, I think I'm actually probably the inventor of these sweat bags that people started wearing, man. So I said, shit, if I got to lose this weight, then I'm going to get to it because this is something that I wanted to do. So I started getting up every single morning and starting putting on these black trash bags and rip holes in the side of them and then put on a sweater. And I was running every single day, man, running every single day, trying to do sit-ups, crunches, push-ups, all of these things. And before it was time for me to head off to boot camp in August, I lost close to like 60 pounds. And just to make it and get on that bus, we went through MEPS. We got sworn in, getting to meet everybody that I'm actually going to get to travel to Paris Island with, and we're getting ready to go through the gate. They tell everybody, put your heads down. And it's like 0 dark in the morning, and we're pulling through, and it's super, super quiet, and you don't hear nothing. And all of a sudden, we pull up, and we park. And the drill instructor get on the bus. He was like, get off of my bus, get off of my bus. And he started yelling and screaming, man. And he was like, get on my yellow footprints, get on my yellow footprints. And we started running, getting on the yellow footprints, and everybody shaking and shivering. And I'm saying to myself, man, what the hell is this? What the hell did I just sign up for? What the hell is going on here? And they started yelling at us, screaming at us, knife hand, knife hand, knife hand. Man, what the fuck did I just sign up for? What the hell is going on here, man? As we're going through this process, man, they're telling us to shave our hairs. They're issuing us our uniforms. We're getting all of our medical docs. We're getting our boots, our camis, and all of this. And you're just like in a whirlwind, man. Like your head is just spinning. To think about like the process and all these things that's taking place, can you really focus? What I realized was once we started boot camp, man, is like the Marine Corps truly has a system and a process that they're actually putting you through in regards to like breaking you down and then building you back up. That's the process. You know, we went through boot camp. We were lining up in front of our beds. And then all of a sudden, Staff Sergeant Culver, Agatep, and Ingerson comes out. And they start going to shit, man. They started like, start yelling at everybody and telling everybody to lock in. And then Sergeant Agatep like gets in my face, man. I'm like, who the fuck is this dude in my face, man? And he started yelling at me, talking about, you fat slaw, I'm going to get you to lose weight, whatever. He starts yelling, man, and I'm like saying to myself, I'm going to punch this dude in his fucking face, man. Like, who the hell is this dude? Ain't nobody, not even my football coach ever been in my face this close up speaking to me, man. You know, they just tore us down, man, the first couple months that we're there. I remember one night that I was sleeping in my bunk bed and lights go out. And all of a sudden, this guy climbs up on the top of the bunk bed and like jumps on top of it and started yelling at me, Allison, I'm going to fucking kill you. Like, dude, what the hell is wrong with you, man? He was crazy, man. Agatep was nuts, man. I remember another time where we were there and he was talking to another recruit and he's telling the recruit to like start like monkey walk or monkey crawl. And he's just there like showing him how to beat on the ground and do a whole bunch of crazy, stupid stuff. And he was like, this is how you got to be in the guerrilla warfare, man. I was like, this guy, something is up with this dude, man. I don't understand what's going on with Agatep, man. Agatep turned out to be one of the coolest drill instructors once things started like progressing and going through. And he was like telling me like, Allison, I'm really trying to like get into your head and see what you're made of and see how tough or mentally resilient you could be in regards to like pushing back and going through some things. And he turned out to be a really cool dude in regards to a drill instructor. I say that because when I first started, I was someone that was always trying to like prove myself, but I always found myself at the back of the squad. And then as I progressively started getting better and better and better as in boot camp, I eventually made it to becoming a squad leader. And I think while I was going through that whole transition, I was like, man, I want to quit. And I wrote a letter to my mom and I was telling her, you know, I don't know if this thing is cut out for me. I'm going to give it another shot and just keep on pushing through this because they're just on me. They're yelling at me. I can't get nothing right. You know, at this particular time, I couldn't swim. I couldn't run that fast. I couldn't shoot. I couldn't do any of these things. So I'm just thinking like, I'm going to fail out because they tell you if you don't do some of these things and pass some of these things, you're going to get recycled, you know? And I'm like, I don't want this to happen to me. And then I remember my mom wrote me a letter back and she was saying to me that I've seen you push through so many things and gotten through so many things. I know that you could get past this. And in that moment, when she wrote me that letter back, it triggered something for me. And this is why I always keep this letter with me now today. I wrote her back. I said, you know what? You're right. I've seen you guys get past a flood, a hurricane. I've seen you guys get past the transition of coming to America. I've seen you guys sacrifice the work that you guys were doing. I've seen you guys make a whole bunch of things for me and my brother and my sister to make it in this life that we're living. There's no excuse that I have where I can't make it past this and get through boot camp. And I kept that mindset as I was going through boot camp. I graduated boot camp, man, as one of the top squad leaders. To see my mom and dad there as we're crossing that line was one of the greatest moments that I could ever have and share with them, man. In boot camp, as a diet recruit, you had the 2 stripes that they put on your shirt. Whenever you would go through the chow hall line, they would feed you the diet rations. And for me, I guess as I think about it, growing up in Jamaica, I eat jerk chicken, dumpling, ackee, sawfish, you name it, brown stew chicken, all of these things. So like I come from a household where like your family's feeding you pretty hearty. And especially as a football player, you're eating pretty hearty. So to go to this vast transition of the diet trays and stuff like that, I think was one of the craziest things, man. So like at nighttime, I remember whenever I was in bed, I could just hear like my stomach like growling, like, man, because you're starving so much. And that's whenever we started going out, and then we would have MREs, then we'd like save the MREs just in case that you get a little bit hungry, you could eat a little bit of something at nighttime, man, because I get the concept of what they're trying to do, but you're burning so much calories every single day. You're marching, you're hiking, and this is in August. So it's hot as hell in Arizona, South Carolina. So you're like burning like 2-3 times the amount of calories you probably should be burning anyways. So I went to boot camp at 210 pounds and I graduated boot camp at 185 pounds, man. This is how much weight I lost, man. So graduation day, I'm just preparing and we're iron pinning, taking all of everything, any little out of our shirts. We're getting our uniforms pressed and just checking everything's out, making sure everything fit and make sure that you're looking sharp. As I'm doing this, I could just start reflecting on like the journey of what it was like to get to this moment, man, and knowing that you're about to graduate, to think that you're someone that couldn't swim, but you're graduating swim qual, to think that you're someone that came in at 210 pounds and now you've lost all this weight, to think that you grown so much and you've come a part of a brotherhood in regards to like only you could claim this title that nobody else could ever take from you was like some of the proudest moments that I'm just reflecting on and going through at that moment. You've had family members that's been writing you and supporting you and just been your biggest cheerleader along the way, is going to be there in the front row to see you graduate and come across that stage is one of the most humbling moments that you could ever experience. There at graduation, it's the ceremonial moment. All eyes are on you. Everybody's checking you out. When you're crossing that parade deck, your drill instructor is giving you all of the moments to do your different movements. And you can see that everybody's locked in on you. Everybody's focused on you. And this is your moment to shine. You can see the intensity and the magnitude of what's actually taking place in regards to this is a big deal for you and for your family. As I was going through that and I graduated, man, my mom and dad comes up, they hugging me, and I'm not a big crier or anything like that, man. But when you see like tears coming from your face and knowing that I did it, I accomplished something that most people could never say that they've done this. And to do some of these things that you've done, crucible, running, hiking, climbing, jumping, swimming, you name it, taking that mental punishment. To take that mental punishment of what somebody puts you through shows another part of you too as well in regards to just being resilient, because not too many people could take somebody yelling at you, screaming at you every single day and dealing with that for 3 months. And that's something that knowing that you've been through that and you persevered through that, man, it really showed that, man, I've accomplished something great. When your mom and dad is there embracing you, hugging you, knowing that they're proud of something that you did, to see that the man that you've become, and to see that transition and that transformation in you too as well, knowing that this was their high school kid that just graduated, that was acting all crazy and goofy in high school, coming inside of the house, sleeping whenever he wants, wake up when he wants, do all these different things, and to know that you're saying, good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir. How you doing, dad? How you doing, mom? Those types of things was truly amazing. And for them to just come up to me and be like, we're proud of you. We're glad that you made this choice and made this transition in your life. We can see the difference in you. We can see that in the letters that you're writing and things that you're telling us, to know that there's a transformation going on here. To see that, it was one of the greatest moments of my life. So my brother was there, my sister was there, my niece was there, mom and dad was there. And for them to come in and embrace me and just tell me that they're proud of me was one of the greatest moments of my life. So after graduating boot camp was Thanksgiving. So we had the opportunity to go out to Cracker Barrel with my mom and dad right after that. So we sat down, had a meal, and then we went back home to Miami, Florida. This was around Thanksgiving time frame. To go back home on Thanksgiving Day, knowing that you've been rationed X amount of food, not to what you've been eating. And on Thanksgiving Day, man, I pigged out, dude. I pigged out. I just ate as much food as I could, man, because I haven't eaten real food in such a long time, man. But it was a good time just to be with my family and just see my friends. My friends came around, some of the guys I went to high school with, some of the football players I played with. In that moment, you know, as cool as it was to be with my family for Thanksgiving and going back to my neighborhood, I realized I made the right decision. I realized that I'm not missing anything. To see that some of the same people that I graduated with in the past 3 months have not accomplished as much as I've accomplished in 3 months, and they're still here, haven't done anything, haven't moved on with their life. And I know that I made the right decision. This was when I said, I'm going to go into this Marine Corps and I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to embrace the challenge. I'm going to embrace everything that is going to come my way. I think boot camp was a great foundation. It was a great stepping stone in regards to what was to come in my life and in my career. It was going to make of me in regards to the man that I wanted to be. It was 1999. So this was when everybody was thinking the world is going to end. It's Y2K. All that stuff is out there in regards to creating another level of fear. But for me, I was getting ready to go to Marine combat training. Before that, I had the opportunity to do a little bit of recruiting. So I did a little bit of recruiting for about 2 weeks there with the recruiters. And I had a chance to now be on the other side in regards to being with the staff sergeants and the sergeants, but actually be with the people that actually help recruit me to get me to join, to understand that level in the processing and what is taking place at that moment. Understanding that and getting to learn that was very knowledgeable in regards to some of the things that I needed to know of what it takes to actually join the Marine Corps and be a part of the Marine Corps, because now I'm getting to see behind the scenes. But once I got my orders to go to Marine combat training, I go off to North Carolina. But as I got there to do MCT training, they weren't ready to pick us up. So I'm there and they had to put us in like a holding platoon. I'm there just meeting other guys from different parts of the countries, and we're there just waiting. And I had one of the coolest opportunities that I could ever experience. I grew up watching tons of military movies, and I've always been fascinated by the 21 gun salute. And I had a chance to be a part of the funeral detail. And while I was there, I had the chance for close to a month and a half to bury quite a few different veterans that have served prior to me, to truly give me a honorarium in regards to like just understanding like other people that have served before me and some of the things that they've been through. So while I was there, I was part of funeral detail, and I had a chance to do part of the flag folding, had a chance to carry some of the caskets, had a chance to shoot some of the rifles as well too, had a chance to carry the flags over to some of the family members that were there in regards to their loved ones that they lost. When I got a chance to understand and hear some of these people's story, and think about some of the things that they've been through, you know, I was truly appreciative in regards to understanding the magnitude of the moment. But as I was hearing their stories, I was thinking, how many of these people's stories have never been told? How many of these people's stories we've never heard? And to think about, these are lost moments that we're missing in regards to some of the cemeteries. I've been to Arlington Cemetery where we're burying so many guys, and I could look out here in the cemetery and I could see like how many of these stories out here that we've never heard. We've never heard their stories. No one has never told it. All of these guys here are heroes that have done some great things, and we'll never hear their stories. This is a moment that I truly get to cherish because I'm hearing these people's stories as I'm doing this. But I just think that there's so much of an opportunity for people's stories to be told. Once I was finished with being on the funeral detail, I actually did Marine combat training, which was MCT. And doing MCT was during one of the toughest times of my life, because I'm a kid from Jamaica and I'm also from Miami. So I've never seen snow a day in my life. I've never been cold a day in my life. So when I got there, it was around January, February timeframe. and we did Marine combat training. And we're out there for 10 days, and we're doing all of these things, training for the training. But on the last day that we're training, man, we're hiking. And as we're hiking, it's starting to snow, and it's starting to rain. We just start dropping like flies. Everybody just started dropping and passing out. That included me. We all passed out from hypothermia, and for myself, I had frostbite, and I found myself in the emergency room. I'm thinking that I was dead. I thought I was close near to death, man. And the doctor told me that I passed out from hypothermia, and I also have frostbite. So that delayed my training to signing into my unit that I was supposed to go to. And as I was going through this process, I just thank God that I was alive and I got through this. And I was able to make it through this because I've never experienced anything like this in regards to being that cold and seeing the color of my fingers change. I eventually got to Courthouse Bay, and I was a part of Second Tracks. And being a part of Second Tracks was one of the coolest moments, which is in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Being someone that had the opportunity to serve and being embraced by the group of guys that I served with was one of the coolest things to understand, that coming in as a lower ranking PFC, to have a group of brothers, all of these things that you've been looking for and trying to be a part of was one of the coolest moments. I think about that as all of my experience in life and things that I've been through, and times where I either been mistreated and times where I may have second guessed my decision making in regards to joining, to know that I was being greeted by a staff sergeant, a gunnery sergeant, a warrant officer, and all of these other corporals and sergeants. And they're bringing me in and they're showing me the ropes and they're telling me, hey, welcome to being a part of our unit. Welcome to being a part of this elite group of guys that is going to help you, mold you, and shape you, and help be a part of your growth and your journey as you join this Marine Corps service. So it was great, man. When I first joined, I thought that I'm going to come here, I'm going to kick butt, I'm going to prove myself in regards to earning my ranks, earning my keeps, and being a part of this unit. I actually never been a part of any initiations with the units that I've been a part of. For the most part, the guys that I serve with, this didn't happen to me, but I remember when I was in boot camp, the guys that were always like, you want to call them like your 10%, or the people that were not doing what they're supposed to do, they would carry all like the igloos. So like we had two guys, he was recruit Ig and this was recruit Lou, and he had to carry the two jugs. But for myself, I got treated with tons of respect. People treated me well, and I didn't really have any like hazing type of story. And I'm kind of glad, because being some of the things that I've been through that was tied to hazing when I was younger, maybe that would have been traumatic for me, but that never actually happened to me. So those guys were more kind of like the country guys. So I was kind of the Miami guy that was kind of like with the flair, kind of like with the swag, those types of things. So the guy with the cool car, so most of the guys embraced me and wanted to like hang out with me and kind of like show me the ropes in regards to like what it was like to be there in North Carolina. I got up that morning, we PT'd, and after we PT'd, came back, showered up, and I got in my truck. And I'm on my way driving down to the ramp. All of a sudden I hear sirens going off on the base, and I'm starting to get phone calls from family members. And they're calling me and asking me, am I okay? Are you going to war? I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And they tell me that the Twin Towers just got attacked by terrorists. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. And I get down to our office, and all of the other guys are telling me. And now we're turning on the TVs and we're seeing this. Holy shit, what the fuck is going on? I immediately go to the moment of when I said goodbye to my parents and walking out that door, when that recruiter comes to the door and picks us up to join the Marine. And my mom and dad, biggest fear was me going to war. And this is in that moment that I know that I'm going to be going to war soon. I'm just perplexed and trying to like understand the magnitude of what's going on. Your family is asking you all of these questions that you have no answer for or anything like that. We're all going through this moment all at the same time. Try to understand that is a bit perplexing at the moment. But as we're going through that, all of us are starting to talk, all of us are starting to communicate. Base got shut down. We're just thinking, what's next, what's next? As President Bush gives the word in regards to identifying this was a terrorist attack. And then shortly after that, he declared war. And after he declared war, I got transitioned to go to Okinawa, Japan. And I transitioned to Okinawa, Japan. I got assigned to being on the 31st MEU. And being on the 31st MU, I was attached to quite a few different units and quite a few different Amtrackers. You got LAR and all of these recon guys that we're tied to. We're doing different things and we're training. We're just waiting and just preparing and training. Nothing happened for the unit that I was with. Shortly after that, I got my orders to go to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And as I get to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, I get assigned to 3rd Tracks. And I'm there and I get assigned to 1st Platoon. And the 1st Platoon is Kulak, Eads, Jason. It was Captain Venning leading us at that time. And we're there training in 29 Palms. And while we're there in 29 Palms, Captain Venning comes up and tells us, boys, it's our turn. And it's time for us to go to Iraq. And in that moment, that's when the rubber hits the road. And now really to see what we're really made of and kind of see what are we going to do in this moment, in this pivotal moment, for ourselves, for our country, for our unit. At this moment, this is when I called my parents and I was telling them, we just got the word that we're about to go to Iraq. We're about to go invade Fallujah. Things that were going to change. I had this conversation with my mom and dad because, this was one of their biggest fears in regards to their son actually going to war, knowing that I could potentially die. I felt like I was prepared in regards to all of the training and things that we've done leading up to that. Once we knew that we got the word, we started doing a whole bunch of field training. We started doing a whole bunch of close combat training and a whole bunch of scenario training, understanding of what it's like to actually potentially be in that country with the languages and different things like that, working with interpreters and so forth. So we had that level of training in regards to the preparation leading up to that and what to expect, the units that we're going to be attached to try to convey that to your family members and for them to understand that it's not the same level of understanding, knowing what you've gone through and what you've been through. I said, what are some things that I could do to help alleviate some stress and not put a burden of stress on other people? I immediately cut off all of the things that was attached to me, as in cars, phones, and all those things. But I started separating myself from family members and loved ones, knowing that I could potentially die. So the young lady that I was dating at the time, I broke up with her, told my mom and dad, gave them a letter in regards to if I die, hey, I would like to see these things happen. I would like to see these things take place. Trying to cut off all ties with things that could be mental blockage in regards to you processing and being laser focused on what you're about to do. I wanted to detach myself from some of those things in regards to making sure that I'm there for the unit that I'm with, the guys that are going to be fighting side by side with me, and making sure that I'm focused and there for them intentionally and present every single time and every single moment. Once I did all of those things, I had this Gunny Kulak, and his dad served in the war. Him and his dad had conversations, and he was our section leader. So me and him talked a good bit. And we had other guys in our unit that actually served. So I started talking with those guys too as well of what it's going to be like over there. What should I expect? I felt pretty confident in regards to our level of brotherhood, the camaraderie that we had, and us sticking together and doing what we're supposed to do. And from there, man, we left from California to Seattle, from Seattle to Canada, from Canada to Germany, from Germany to Kuwait. And once we got to Kuwait, we're there and we're just kind of in a holding pattern, holding moment, and we're just waiting. So in between that, we're just getting more ops and more briefings, and we're just doing different types of training just to kind of kill time. And at this time, whenever we're just sitting around and there's nothing going on, obviously we're in Kuwait, this is when guys start to have a little bit of fun a little bit. So some of us had some fun in regards to where we're staying at. Some of the guys were really goofballs. We had some guys about Hokuson, Kuntz, Marifian. These guys here, man, were your jokesters. But they kept things light in regards to having that camaraderie that we had going on to keep the moment and cut the tension a little bit. When we got to Kuwait, we had this guy by the name of Hokuson. He was a jokester, but he was also one of those guys that would be pretty braggadocious in regards to with the ladies and stuff like that. One of his buddies made a bet with him and said, hey man, I dare you to stick your stuff inside of this MRE with hot sauce inside of it for X amount of dollars, man. And Hokuson fucking did it. And if you want to see somebody running the hell up out of there, man, yo, this dude was like, yo, my dick is on fucking fire, dude. Yeah, man, that was one of the craziest things. But that had us cracking up and rolling, man. Then we had this other guy, Marifian, and he's never tried dip before. So he was there, and they dared him. They dared him to try dip, and he tried to dip and put in his mouth, and all of a sudden you just started seeing him on the back of the Amtrak, and his head is just like wobbling woozy. So you just started seeing him like leaning. All of a sudden he just started throwing up and hurling all over the ground, man. We just started laughing at him, man. He was like, "What the fuck is this shit, man? What the fuck is this shit, man?" So we saw him just starting to throwing up. Then we had this other guy. His name was Laux. And when you look at Laux, he looks like unattractive people to look at. I would say that. So he was like, "I'm big, sexy sergeant. I'm big, sexy sergeant." And we was like, "Dude, you're ugly as fuck, dude. Stop. What the fuck is wrong with you? Who tell you that? My wife thinks I'm big, sexy sergeant." I was like, "Hey, dude, you're ugly as fuck, man." And he would just take that to the grave with him, man. Laux was straight up comic, man. But he was a good dude, man. He always had your back, always willing to like do stuff for you, man. All these guys are good guys, man. But I love the fact that they had a sense of humor that could keep things lighthearted, especially when the tensions are high, things are high stress and stuff. I think the Marine Corps does a great job in teaching you how to compartmentalize things, how to turn things on, turn things off very fastly, very quickly. When you have guys like this that could cut up for this minute and then turn it back on and get serious with you and lock in just like that is one of the coolest things. And I love that in regards to what we had to do. I think about the time that we were getting ready to go out on a mission and we're there sitting and we have these grunt guys and they're there in the back and they have nothing to do. And all of a sudden the other guy said to the other guy, I dare you to headbutt him. And they started headbutting each other to who could headbutt each other the hardest. I was like, are these motherfuckers serious? Are they really doing this? And they started headbutting each other. Who could hit each other in the head the hardest, yo? I was like, you guys are fucking crazy, man. I'm just there in the back of my track looking at this like, what the hell is this shit going on here, man? These guys are like legitimately headbutting each other, man. I couldn't believe this shit. I couldn't believe this nonsense, man. But those are like some of the craziest moments I see guys do some stuff, man. It was just wild, man. It's crazy how we could go through these moments and like still lock back in, man. We could go through these crazy, funny moments and still lock back in. And I think about these things, man, as like you needed some of these things just to cut the tension and just keep things moving in regards to like what you're about to get into. Once we got the word that we was getting ready to go into Iraq, we had a convoy of close to over 100 vehicles. So tanks, Humvees, 5 tons, you name it, on a convoy all the way in. So as we're getting ready to go through, we're there traveling in the middle of the night, thinking that, you know, something could have happened, possibly happened, but nothing happened, nothing occurred. And we're traveling, took a couple breaks, a couple stops in between that, refueling, those types of things. We got into the fob. And as soon as we got into the fob, the first sign that I saw was that complacency kills. And I remember seeing that. And it was just like a quick little wake-up call, quick little reminder in regards to like, it's time to lock in. It's time to get focused. It's time to have your head on a swivel. And we pulling through the fob, Amtrak's our 5 tons, and we set up. And after we set up, we all walk back up to all of the hooches where we're going to be sleeping at. And we're there and we're getting a briefing by Stinson, by Venning, and all of a sudden we hear, incoming! And all of a sudden everyone is running and going, finding cover. As soon as we did that, in this moment, I was like, holy shit, this shit is real. Knowing that any one of those could hit me and any one of those could kill me. There's no time to fuck around. There's no time to take anything lightly. And that's exactly what that sign meant. Complacency will kill you. You gotta be prepared for anything at any given moment. And as soon as we got there, nothing happened to us. We all found cover. But it was that puckering moment in regards to like, you got to be prepared for whatever is coming at your way and be ready to deal with adversity or any challenge that you're going to face. From there, we go to the rooms that we got assigned. And I had the chance to sit down with my gunny, and he was our section leader. And we're just talking about having each other's back and taking care of our brothers and taking care of our section and all of the guys that's with us. He told me, I got your back. I'm telling him, I got your back. Me and him get ready to go on our first mission. And the first mission that we go on, we're setting up outside of the city and we're providing security. And we're sitting canted off side of one of the main highways there in the city. The fob that we're on, I don't remember all of the fobs and the exacts, but directly outside of the city of Iraq and Fallujah. We're not too far from Abu Ghraib prison, all of those different bases and stuff. And we're there throughout the day. People walk by, people come up, cars are driving by, nothing is taking place. From afar, there was quite a few different buildings. Nightfall comes, and we're rotating in regards to manning the turret of the vehicles that we're using. Dark, lights go off, nothing. RPG shoots over my AV and lands behind me. Another RPG shoots back over us, misses us. We immediately pivot our vehicles, pivot the turret, and immediately return fire in the direction of where it's coming from. Myself, my gunny, Lance Corporal Lowe, Castanelli, all of us start returning fire onto this building and lay this building down and everybody and everything that was inside of it. And as we're shooting, the amount of adrenaline kicks in as the first time in Iraq, in combat, and you're now engaging and you're now shooting. All of the training, all of the preparation actually kicks in. There was no hesitation. There was no second guessing. We just immediately start engaging. And we're just communicating over the radio of what we're seeing, what we're looking at. And as that transpired, man, and I was thinking about it, me and Gunny sat down and was talking, and he was like, brother, man, thank you, man, for having my back. And I told him, thank you for having my back in regards to us responding, us coordinating and handling that situation, and nobody died. Knowing that we're there to take care of each other and support one another. I say that, we could have easily done something wrong. We could have easily made a mistake. We could have easily gotten shot. That RPG just was inches away from any one of us being hit. And thank God there were bad shots. Another reminder of keep your head on the swivel. Don't get complacent. This thing is real. You guys could lose your life. You got to make sure that you're watching out for them and you're watching out for yourself and making sure this is a true man of I have your six. Going through this, man, was truly the beginning of what was to take place and preparing us of what was to come. Things are going on while we're there in Iraq. We would get assigned to go do patrols. We would get assigned to leave our tracks and get into Humvees and do different types of patrols. Or we'd get assigned to take our tracks and go into different scenarios and go into different clearings and things like that. So we got put into some very peculiar situations. Some of them didn't make sense, and we would sometimes question some of those things, understanding what is the magnitude or why are we doing some of these things. Thank God the unit that we were with, we didn't lose anyone. But throughout that tour while I was there, we lost quite a few different guys that went out on different missions and different patrols. And I think about one of the ones that took place was with Corporal Combs and Puckett. Corporal Combs, they went out and they got attacked, and his track got shot up and eventually caught on fire. Puckett was one of the guys that was on there that tried to save him. And Puckett did a phenomenal job, and he saved those guys and got them out of there. This showed me the level of leadership that anyone at any level could show up for and rise in a circumstance and a situation. Puckett at this time was a junior Marine, and Corporal Combs was his senior Marine. If he was scared, terrified, he could have not done anything, but Puckett took upon himself to save all of these guys and make sure he communicated, coordinated, and get everybody out of there, even if they were passed away or dead or anything like that, to make sure that he saved their lives. This is something that was truly commendable on his part, tons of respect for him. Unfortunately, Puckett was one of those go-getters. He came back, kind of put in an administrative role in regards to what took place and what transpired. And on one of the next missions that he went out on, unfortunately, he lost his life on that mission that he was on. When I think about leadership, I think about people like him in regards to in the moment of challenges, in the moment of desperation, the moments of when things like hit the fan, what are you going to do? How are you going to step up to the plate? And for him to step up in that moment of bravery, that's something that I always looked up to him for in regards to what he did when he was over there too as well. Puckett was a really good guy, man. I remember some of the conversations that I had with Puckett, and he was always very respectful, always very a delight to speak with. And he was like, "Hey, Sergeant, how you doing, Sergeant?" Always wanted to find out more about me. And you could always tell that he was someone that is very intrigued in regards to kind of like a servant leadership type of person in regards to making sure that you're okay, making sure that you're good. And you can actually see that's why that played out for him in his life in regards to like taking care of people. And I just remember me and him just sometimes sitting out in the front of by our hooches and just talking about where he's from, where I'm from, some of our upbringings and some of the things that we experienced. And then I love the fact that we're in different platoons, so you could always tell each other or talk to each other, like, what are some things that you're seeing? And I could tell them some of the things that I'm seeing. So the next time when you're going out, hey, look out for this, be prepared for that. And those are some of the conversations and stories that we were having. But to get to understand the kind of heart and the mindset and the person that he truly was truly amazing. To know that he was a young man that had a great big heart, someone that was willing to serve and just willing to always see about you and try to help take care of you and make sure that you was in a good space as well. So that was something that I really liked about him. I thought that this deployment was going to be pretty intense after what took place after the first mission that we went on. And it truly played out that way. In between that time frame, we went on different missions and different patrols. And in between that, we lost some guys. We lost Weatherby from an IED. We lost Puckett when he went back out. We lost Mellowat, and we lost quite a few other guys in between that. On the last mission and patrol that we went out on, this one was probably the worst thing that I could have ever experienced in my life. Now, what took place prior to that was my gunnery sergeant that I was there with, unfortunately, he had injured his back. And when he injured his back, I was his assistant section leader at that time. So I was promoted to replace him to become the lead section leader. Being someone, my position, I thought that somebody else would have been promoted to that position. But my unit, they chose me to lead first section. As I did that, I felt entrusted and empowered for them to have that much trust inside of me to lead our guys in our unit. I wanted to take on that same attitude that my gunnery sergeant had in regards to making sure that everybody was okay, taking care of everybody. And I think that was something great that he did and instilled in me in regards to showing his leadership traits and his leadership values and things that was important as some of those things rubbed off on me. And I say that because the situation and circumstances that I was placed in, it really played out over the next couple of days and next couple of months while we were there on one of our last missions. And we're attached to the Iraqi soldiers. We had a translator with us. We had J-Lo with us, Staff Sergeant J-Lo. And we're there providing support to another unit. And we're there in like some palm tree area. And we're there. And all of a sudden, these Iraqi soldiers start shooting their AK-47s in the air for no reason. I'm like, what the hell are these guys doing? So we get down and we start yelling at them, like, what are you guys doing? You guys are drawing attention to us. We started hearing, incoming! And now we're getting shot at, mortars are coming in, and we have no clue where they're coming from. And one of them hit one of our AAVs and knocked out one of the front riggings, and we had to put that back together. I started coordinating with the Eye in the Sky, and they identified where this is coming from. So I started coordinating with them. We get our AAVs together, and we started maneuvering to the location of where they identified them. And then we get in a position, they were hidden inside of a house, and they have some cars there by the house too as well. So we left flanked them, and we were starting to creep up on them and pull up on them, and we just starting to come in. And as soon as we pull in on them, we lowered our weapons, getting ready to fire, and just lay this house down. And all of a sudden, J-Lo starts talking, and they start coming out with their hands up. And to my surprise, I'm like, are these guys giving up? We captured them, and as we captured them, we found inside of their car, inside of their house, cache of weapon, RPGs, grenades, guns, all these things we found. And we tied them up, zip tied them, and we put them in the back of our AAVs. We literally beat the shit out of him. We didn't kill him, but we beat the shit out of him. In this moment, I've never seen anyone taking a butt whipping, didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't care one bit what happened to them. As I saw this in their face, it was to the point of, whenever you've seen anyone getting into a fight, most of the time they fight back. And to see someone not fight back or do anything, it really showed me in this moment of questioning, like, why are we in this war? Why are we going through this? Because it made me question, did they really want to get captured? Did they not want to get caught? Do they care about fighting? Or are they fighting for a higher thing that we have nothing to do with? It was just a whole bunch of things going in my head in regards to fighting. And to see them not do anything, then scream, more so like they got into like a meditative prayer state, kind of like, I'll accept whatever happens, I'll accept whatever takes place, was in a different space for me to understand what's going on here. We turned them in, and as soon as we turned them in, we get ready to come back out. And as we're getting ready to come back out, we resupply. So we got some more ammunition, some water, and our larger unit was in another location that was getting ready to join. And as we get ready to join them, we follow the same route that we took the previous day, where we captured these guys. And we're pulling up, our unit is set up in a 360 perimeter formation. So we're going around counterclockwise, and Casanelli is my assistant, and he's passing out the waters, the ammunition to each tank. And Lance Corporal Lowe is my driver, so he's driving, and he's just dropping things off, dropping things off, dropping things off. And as we get to the last vehicle was a Humvee that has my gunnery sergeant. It has the doctor on the right side and the driver's side. We have Hernandez that's manning the gun, and we have my best friend Solto that's on the driver's side. We give them their supplies, and as we give them their supplies, Gunny's there smoking a cigarette, and we pull off. And 5 seconds after that, I hear the loudest bomb, loudest explosion, and it was just a 500-pound car bomb that drove up right into their Humvees. The blast hit our AV, tilted it, slammed it back down. Shrapnel comes across, shoulder, eyes, all those things, and knocked me down inside of my turret as my body was halfway out of the turret. Knocks me out, Casanelli grabs me, checks on me. And as I come to, we get out to go see what took place. And I see this big old crater hole in the ground. Nothing but dust, smoke, fire. You can smell like metal, you can smell like blood, you can smell all those things in the atmosphere. And as we're going over, we see Gunnery Sergeant has blood coming out of his ears. The doctor, his legs is cut up. Hernandez, half of his face is blown off. And then my best friend Solto, you can see his stomach all on the steering wheel in this vehicle. Had to put him in a body bag. And they got medevaced out of there. I'm not even paying attention to anything that's going on with me. I'm not worried about me or anything like that. Solto was a really good friend of mine, as when we got there, he's another kid from I'm from Jamaica. His family is from the islands. He's from Wisconsin. I was supposed to go to the University of Wisconsin. And in our off times while we're there at the FOB, we're watching bootleg DVDs, we're hanging out, we're watching movies, we're listening to mixtapes of new music that's coming out and stuff like that. I've never had anybody that close to me that I know is no longer breathing, and I'm putting them in a body bag, and I'm seeing all of this, and I was in shock. I was in disbelief. I couldn't believe this is what just happened. Immediately, what lived with me after that was we came around that 360 and we was dropping off those supplies. And that same vehicle, we passed that vehicle on our way around, but it was just a car sitting there. And we didn't give it a thought, didn't give it any inkling or anything like that. So what always has played in my mind was how I didn't see that, how I didn't catch that, of something that was out of place type of thing, it bared a lot on me in regards to like, that was my fault. I could have done something about that, and this could not have taken place. So there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of guilt that I carried a good bit of my life in regards to what took place, in regards to me worried about them and how this could have been prevented. And that was a big struggle for me when I was in that day. After that, when we got back to the fob that night, that's what was playing over and over and over in my head. It was so fast of what took place, because immediately after that, as soon as we got a medevac, it felt like an ambush. From there, Captain Venning gave us the word that we had to get out of there. And as soon as we got out of there and getting ready to leave, we had to button up and close up all of the hatches. And now we're taking incoming fire from left and right. And now we're just shooting our way out of this war zone, trying to get back to the fob. And we're just starting to take in fire left and right. You're just hearing shots hitting off of the tanks. And we're just trying to get the hell up out of there. You having so much adrenaline kicking in, you having so much things that's processing inside of your head. You're now shooting to get out of this place, and you just experienced this a couple hours ago. And once we got back to the fob, people are crying, people are mad, people are upset, people are just, this is something that triggered so many things inside of us, because we were getting ready to go back home. We've just lost 6 of our guys. We just lost 6 of our guys that should be going back home with us. For them not to be going back with us was one of the most sombering times of my life, of our moments. To know that we just lost our brothers that we came over here with fully intact. I remember when I was with Salto, talked about going back home and just going back to see our families. We're from the Caribbean, so we talked about the Caribbean food that we want to go back and eat, some of the food that we miss. And we talked about having a Heineken. Those were our favorite beers, because the beer that we had over there in Iraq was the watered down O'Doul's that they were giving us while I was over there. So I can't wait to have a Heineken, man. And we couldn't wait to just go back and stop watching these bootleg DVDs on these mini MP3 players and actually go to a movie theater. To not actually see that through was unfortunate. You know, I remember speaking with Lieutenant Weatherby. Lieutenant Weatherby was a really good lieutenant, man. You know, there's some officers out there that don't really communicate with you and kind of is standoffish, but he was one of those guys that was getting in there with you and actually getting to know you. And I really, truly appreciated that about him. To not see him make it through was very tough. You know, it was just close to a month away before we went back home. I thought about Melawat, and one of his best friends was in my platoon. They were very close. And I remember speaking with Crispin, which was his best friend. They were a tight-knit family. See that one of his best friends was not going to come back home. I could see how it really was hard on him, of how he was taking it, as they were best friends when we was living in California. And just to go through that process of understanding that all of us have these goals, all of us have these dreams, all of us have these stories that we're telling each other and telling ourselves, and to not see some of those things come to fruition was unfortunate. When we got back, there was a memorial for all of these guys. Was getting ready to go to the memorial. It was hard for several of us to actually go and be there in that moment, knowing that this was fresh in our brain, fresh in our mind. If you were there face to face, you were there smelling it, seeing it, going through that, to now see that these guys that you were just side by side with, these guys that you were just holding conversations with and talking to, is now laying here, they're no longer here with us, was a very emotional time for us when we were getting ready to go to the funeral ceremony. You know, a lot of guys was crying, a lot of guys was emotional, including myself, knowing that the bond and the camaraderie and the relationship that we've shared with these people is still there, but, you know, it's just a different in a different way now. To truly understand that was, it was very tough. What I will say that I liked about it is that we were there for each other in regards to the entire unit of guys, just like supporting each other and being there, knowing that, you know, we could count on each other and we could celebrate their lives together in regards to honoring them the right way and the correct way as United States Marines. So I really, truly appreciated how the unit did that. I truly appreciated how the base did that for those guys, knowing what took place. That was the last mission that I went on. We went through a little small transition in regards to talking about it, debriefing, you want to say. Immediately, that was so hard on our unit. That was so hard on what took place. The magnitude of what took place in regards to that mission that we were on, things were happening at a higher level within our units that we were not abreast of what was going on for some of the missions and the patrols that were taking place in regards to our units being assigned to do certain things, knowing that they were actually outside of our normal protocols as Amtrackers. So that's some of the things that we were trying to understand and learn while we were here, while we were doing some of these things. We later found out in greater detail, because some of those things were top secret, that we were not abreast of at that particular moment and that particular time. What took place once we transitioned from there, we eventually went back to Kuwait. In Kuwait, that's when we had a chance to kind of like just breathe and just, all that just took place over the past 8-9 months. You could even say that's longer if you want to include the buildup and the training that led up to that, because you're ramping up your body physically, mentally, emotionally, all these things preparing to go into this. And once we got to Kuwait, it was kind of like in that moment where guys were in a somber moment, but then we started opening up a little bit and just started sharing stories and started to talk a little bit more and just like honoring some of these guys once we got to Kuwait. But I'll tell you though, that flight back was one of the quietest flights I've ever been on. It was hard to process those things and go through those things, because I think about when I first got to Iraq, we got hit with the incoming. That was a close call. I went out on my first mission, RPG shoot over my head. That was a close call. Been on plenty of other patrols outside of those gates. Any one of those times I went out on those patrols, supported other units, other missions that we went on, something could have easily happened to me. The last mission that we did, when those guys were shooting those RPGs and we went to that house, something could have easily happened to us. The car bomb, that could have easily been me 5, 6, 7 seconds ago. And I'm in this airplane on my way back home. And I just was so thankful and appreciative. I've always thought about like having like guardian angels, or just having a praying grandmother that's always been praying over me. My mom is always praying over me. My church is always praying over me. My family is always praying over me, and just thinking these are some of the blessings that I have, knowing that those guys that I just served with that we're about to honor is not coming back home, or they're not inside this airplane. It is my duty, it is my honor to actually honor those guys and represent those guys and carry their names on, knowing that I have the opportunity in regards to carrying their names on and speak about their stories and sharing their stories too as well. As soon as I got back to California, I got orders to go to Quantico, Virginia. And when I got back to California, you know, I tried to just adjust and acclimate. And that was a very tough transition. Going through that experience, you know, it was very tough for me to share that with my family, and it was very hard to relate and communicate. Lo and behold, somewhere in between that transition, I'm off to Quantico, and I get assigned to the basic school. And I'm now instructing officers and teaching them some of the same things that I just did in combat, and I'm sharing that knowledge and that experience with them. During that time while I was there in Quantico, it was my birthday, and I wanted to celebrate my birthday. I haven't done that in a while. I actually deployed to Iraq during my birthday. So I get ready to celebrate my birthday and go to Miami, Florida to celebrate with my family and with my friends. I go to this nightclub with my brother. I'm there with my wife. I'm there with my family members and my friends. And we go inside of this nightclub. My brother picked out a VIP section and they were already there. I went to the bathroom, so I'm getting ready to come and join them. And then this bouncer approaches me and asking me, "Where are you going, nigger?" And I was like, "Who are you talking to?" And he said, "I'm talking to you, nigger." All of a sudden, I just seen red. I didn't see anything else. Like, this guy just disrespected me, and he intentionally did it because I asked him twice. He headbutted me. And after he headbutted me, we go at it. And we started fighting right there in the nightclub. And that fight made it from inside the club, outside the club, where me and him are fighting outside, and everybody's tussling. My brothers, my friends, everybody, we all jumped in, we started fighting. And from that fight, police gets involved. And police separates us and trying to see what's going on. And then the guy comes back and me and him going at it again, and they taser both of us. And they taser both of us, and I got arrested that night. My mom and dad comes and bail me out of jail. I go back to Quantico, and I'm thinking that I'm gonna be in trouble when I get back to Quantico. The MPs got me and they brought me down and they looked me up and see who I am. They was like, "Oh, you just was in Iraq. What happened? We saw that you got arrested and whatever." And I said, "This is what happened." I told them the story. They said, "Have you been seen by a doctor or anything?" And I said, "No." I go to the emergency room. And I go to the emergency room, they run a CAT scan, and they find I have a hole on my brain. They're asking me, "When did this happen?" I said, "My brain has never been scanned before, so I don't know if it's from Iraq, from the blast, from the bomb, from the car bomb that was involved with, or was it from this guy headbutting me? But now I have this thing in my head that needs to get looked at and starting to be treated." From that story, though, all of the charges got dropped, everything got dismissed, everything got removed off of my record, and all of that went away. But that's what took place in regards to that scenario and that situation. But it really showed me what having PTSD and having like things that trigger you in regards to like your level of, you come back from Iraq, you have a whole bunch of maybe things built up inside of you that you probably haven't released yet, or you haven't let go yet or anything. And I believe this was one of those things where this guy triggered something inside of me and something just came outside of me with a whole bunch of anger and a whole bunch of rage, and it was unleashed on this person. From there, I just knew that something was maybe wrong, something that needed to take place. There's something that I need to address or something that I need to fix, because I've never really gotten into a lot of fights, but a fight like this where I just completely lost it and was completely out of control. From there, I said, I need to get help and I need to start working on myself. After that taking place, I was getting ready to transition out of the military. For me, I thought that I had a plan in place when I was getting ready to transition. And I went to one of the briefings and I came across this guy named Scott, and he worked for the railroad. And he was asking me about myself, some of the things that I'd done. And I said, "Hey, I worked as an Amtracker, drove tanks." He was saying, "Well, I think a transition for you of something that you could do is potentially work on the railroad." So I said, "Cool, let me check it out, look into it." Went through the whole entire process, and as I transitioned out, I did get the job on the railroad. I applied to be a police officer in South Carolina. That did not work out. Do some of those contracting jobs where we could go back overseas and work for some of these like black ops companies and things like that. But those were just a longer drawn out process, and the railroad came calling, and I accepted that job as I had a family, I had a house, had things I was trying to figure out, and I couldn't wait too long. So I took the job to work on the railroad. Turned out to be a pretty good job initially when I started the job. But at that time, I was in a house, didn't really have any furniture, didn't have anything, sleeping on an air mattress, and the transition of life and responsibilities of a wife, have a son on the way, and trying to figure those things out was hard to navigate. In 6 months of working on a railroad, I got laid off. And I'm saying to myself, holy shit, what am I gonna do? I don't have a lot of money. I have a wife, I have a kid, have a house, have a mortgage, have a car payment. I go back home, Around that time, my son is born, which turned out to be an amazing blessing. And at that same time, I get a phone call from that supervisor on the railroad, and he say, "Hey man, when you were here, you showed me the character and the personality of someone that I think would fit management. Would you be open to a position as a train master?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." As soon as I took that job, man, my life changed. I decided to become a train master and become into a supervisory level, working there in Atlanta, Georgia. And working on the railroad there in Atlanta, it was one of the greatest experiences, being someone that's working with vendors, working with customers, and now responsible for close to over 200 employees and over 200 miles of territory. And when I was doing that, I'm doing this job and I'm doing it greatly. Towards like the last year that I'm there working. And this job is an on-the-call type of job. And as I'm there, 2:00 in the morning, I get a phone call from the dispatcher. And he says, "Hey, Mr. Allison, we have a suicide here that we need for you to respond to." So I said, "All right, sure, I'll be there." Not thinking too much about it, I show up and I get my crew off the train, and we get another crew called in to replace them. I say, "Hey, are you guys okay? Do you guys need anything?" And then get them sent home, replace them, and then report it in regards to like if they needed any like medical services, medical help for them to be treated. From there, the news comes up and starts asking me questions, and the coroner comes up and asks me more questions about what's taking place with the train, with the crew. And I go over there and I see this body cut in half. As soon as I seen this body cut in half, a trigger just went off. And I immediately saw my friend Salto. And as soon as I seen this body, I did all I had to do professionally in regards to my profession. But I go back home and I start having these nightmares. I start having these flashbacks, and I'm starting to have these things just starting to happen in my head. Like sometimes I'm sitting there on my couch and I'm hearing bullets whizzing by my ears. I'm starting to pick up on strange noises. I'm starting to pick up on smells. I'm starting to get like very super vigilant about things and people all of a sudden. I'm driving my car and I'm spacing off, and I said, "I don't know what is this that I'm dealing with, but I need help." I took myself to the emergency room. I saw a psychiatrist, saw a counselor, and going through the whole inpatient process of what is this, could potentially be PTSD. And I go back to my job and I tell my supervisor, I say, "Hey, from this experience that just took place, I think I need to get some help." I reported it, and next thing I knew, I got put on FMLA, and several months after that, I lost my job. It took me back because for me, trying to be an employee that has never been in trouble, an employee that has been doing a great job, an employee that was upfront and honest, doing what I was supposed to do, I lose my job. And I thought about someone like myself and how many other people out there like myself that may be having mental health issues, someone out there that may have PTSD, someone that could be struggling. Are they experiencing some of the same things that I experienced? I thought that this was totally messed up, knowing that I have a family, I have all of these other responsibilities and things that I have to do and things that I have to take care of. And now I'm back out here fending for myself, trying to figure things out. And I found myself going through this situation as I'm like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And at this time, I'm now going through a divorce with my first wife. I get the divorce letters in the mail shortly after that during this time period. And I'm finding myself in a very deep funk. I go out and drink that night, and I got a DUI. Spent the night in jail, and I'm there wondering, like, how did my life get to this particular point? How did I get to this moment? And I go through the whole process of probation, community service, paying fines, your license, all of those things, and losing my job. I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I find myself back home at my mom and dad's house. I was at one of my lowest moments and lowest points in my life, because for someone that has been through some of the things that I've been through, accomplished some of the great things that I've accomplished, to see my life spiraled this quickly, I'm like, how did I get here? I said, no, this is not how it's gonna be. So I picked myself back up, And when I did that, I went back to school, got my bachelor's degree in information security, got my master's degree in business. I took a job in Washington, D.C., where I became an IT project manager for the government and did that very successfully for close to over 15 years. As I was doing that, I said, I want to give this relationship thing another try. I started dating my current wife, and as I'm dating her, I realized that our situation is starting to dwindle again. And I'm realizing there's an issue with me. And we get into this big argument, we get into this big fight on New Year's. And as we get into this big argument, this big fight, I said, I can't do this anymore. And I told her I'm going to file for divorce. File for divorce, and I found myself living in Tampa, Florida. And as I'm there living in Tampa, Florida, I'm back down this spiraling of I'm a horrible person, I'm a horrible dad, I'm this guy that's been through all of these traumatic things. I don't see the point of living, the point of existing anymore. During that same time, I'm going through a custody battle with my ex-wife close to over three and a half years. Over 3.5 years, I'm flying to a hotel, rent a car with me and my son. This process for over 3 years. I'm in court, out of court, in court, out of court. And it's just weighing on me. I'm saying to myself, I think the world would be a better place without me here. And I'm there in Tampa. I got my weapon. And I took myself to that bridge there in Tampa, Florida, where I was living at. And I have some weights in my garage. And I said, if I'm going to not be here, I don't want anybody to find me. And I don't think I should exist anymore. So I tied the weights to my legs, hoping that it'll keep me at the bottom of the ocean. In that moment, as I'm getting ready to take my life, this is when I had that shift. And this is when I had that moment where I just fell down on my knees and just started saying, this is not how it's supposed to end. This is not how my life is going to end. And for me, I'm a person of faith, person that believes in God. And in this moment where I started seeing the revelation of mom and dad has been through a lot. They never gave up. You can't give up. You wrote a letter to your parents that you're not going to give up. Keep that same promise. You have a son that looks up to you. You need to be here for your son. You have a wife that you need to get back in your life. You need to put that relationship back together. And the last thing that really stuck out to me was he was overseas with these guys that serve. They lost their lives. How dare you? How dare you do that to them? And in that moment, I said, no, I'm going to change my life. And that's when I just been on this path of personal growth, personal journey of transformation and figuring this life out and figuring things out. And that's when I said, I'm going to understand and learn, why am I going through this up and down spiral? I felt like my life was kind of like those conveyor belts where things are going around in a circle and stories just keep playing over and over and again. And for me, I was someone that was always waking up every single morning and was doubting and fearing and just going through a whole bunch of things that was taking me down a bad path. I said, let me understand what PTSD is. Let me understand what a traumatic brain injury is. Let me understand what's going on with Michael. What are some of the things that he's bottling and what are some of the things that he's keeping on the inside that he needs to release and let go of? I went to Chicago, started diving into some of these things with some professionals that could actually get my story, understand what's going on with me, and take a deeper dive into what are some of the things that's tied to PTSD, what are some of the things that's tied to me morally, emotionally, physically, that is connecting me and keeping me, or even taking me to the brinks of trying to commit suicide and taking my life. I needed to figure those things out. Following that, after getting a good grasp on that, I went to Emory Hospital in Atlanta. I wanted to get with these guys and understand what is it like of me keep on replaying and having this grief and these guilt, feelings and thoughts of either what took place in Iraq, some of the things with my family, some of the things that occurred to me as a kid, and how could I start shedding some of these things and putting them at bay and not having them replay over and over in my head. From doing some of these things and getting a better understanding of what it is that is the makeup of Michael and what are some of the things that what are some of the tools and strategies Michael started implementing, put into his life to change his life. And for me doing that and doing so, it kind of like set me on the path of like, this is the right path. Things are changing for me. Things are going in a positive way. And this is how you need to actually start carrying out yourself, carrying out your life. And ever since I got on that path, man, you know, I said, I'm going to get my family back. And this is when I started working with a counselor and a psychiatrist and working with my wife in regards to building our relationship and building our bond back. And for us to get remarried and put our family back together was one of the greatest moments in my life. For me to get with my son and start working with our boys and starting integrating and showing them what it's like to be a man, what it's like to be a great father, and working on that relationship was one of the greatest things that I could do. That transition led me to actually starting to tell my story and writing my book. That's the transition that helped me to create my company, to go out here and inspire people and motivate people and help change people's lives, man. The effect has been one of the most rewarding effects that it has on me. Adversity is one of the things that it's not your enemy. It's like one of the greatest teachers that you could ever have. The effect that it has on me has shown me how much of an impact that I could make in sharing my story to other people, knowing that there's so many other people that have gone through some of the same things that I've been through or is currently going through some of the same things. And for me to be a little bit much more vulnerable, be much more transparent and share some of my story, I see that it resonates with people, to letting them know that, you know what, if Michael is going through some of these same things and he's gotten through it, I could get through it too. And knowing that I have that ability to empower people and inspire people is one of the truly greatest blessings that I could ever have and even give to people, is just share my story. I was on the brinks of almost trying to take my life. For me to think about taking my life would be such a dishonor to the guys that have actually fallen, true fallen soldiers. And knowing that I had the opportunity to get on that airplane and come back home, and they did not have the opportunity to do some of the same things, it would be a dishonor to them. So it's up to me to carry on and share their stories. In that moment, it's up to you, Michael, to actually talk about Melawat, talk about Salto, talk about Weatherby, talk about Puckett, and share their story. So how dare you try to take your life and not share their story and share their information because they didn't get that opportunity. And that's one of the things that actually keeps me going, keeps me inspired, and keeps me to actually carry on their legacies too as well. People can find me at www.michaelwallison.com. You can also find me on all social media platforms at I am Michael W. Allison. I believe that adversity is one of the greatest teaching moments that we get to have in life. And it's up to us with the ability to help change people's life with showing your level of transformation. For me, as someone that has been through a great deal of adversities in my life, I now choose to lead with integrity. I now choose to lead with purpose. I now choose to lead with a passion that actually love people, with the opportunity to love myself and the opportunity to empower and inspire people that they could go out here, share their stories too, and help empower people too as well.